Right. And so, just really quickly, so in that 2016 World Championship of Public Speaking, you came in second.
Yep.
How do you feel about not getting first place?
So when you are competing in the Toastmasters International Speech Contest, it's the largest speech contest in the world. 30,000 people compete in it every year, and it's about an 8-month long, 6-round contest.
Wow.
And I noticed that a lot of people will hang their hat as a public speaker on this competition. But one thing I've learned is that your worth as a speaker is not predicated on a speech contest.
Of course, right.
Only one person can be the world champion of public speaking.
Right.
And there are so many other factors that go into it. One of the factors that a lot of people don't like to talk about is just plain dumb luck.
Right.
How do the judges feel that day?
Right.
Did they receive a bad phone call a bit ago that's going to make them react negatively to something that you said?
Right.
There are so many different factors. And then the strength level of your opponents. There are years where the World Championship contest has been, very weak.
Right.
And then there are other years, like my year, where it was very strong. And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, why'd you put me in a strong contest? But these are the different things that can affect your placement, and it has nothing to do with you as a speaker.
Right.
So, of course, you feel disappointed, and it's okay to feel disappointed, but I've seen people just feel bad about it for years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, I do feel, I wouldn't say bad, but there's a little bit of regret. But it's not from placing second. It's because when I got on stage, I actually don't feel that I gave the best performance that I could have given. I didn't execute that speech the way that I thought it could be given, and I feel like I left a little bit on the table. And that was a regret for me. So that was a regret for me as a speaker. It had nothing to do with the contest.
What do you think put you in that position? If you have, I mean, you could say that you don't know and just we're having a bad day because it happens to all of us, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that there's something that looking back, because you study yourself very thoroughly.
Yeah.
So did you find something that you thought, damn, that should have been my focus, that should have been where I should have put a little bit more in, or what do you think?
So in my speech, there were times where I just fumbled over my words.
Right.
And that wasn't as bad because you don't have to be a perfect speaker. You don't have to say every line very clearly. I've fumbled a couple times in our podcast just now, but that's not public speaking. What I regret was because I made those fumbles, I started getting into my head thinking, oh, wait, did the judges catch that? Oh, the judges definitely caught that. They're going to mark me down because of that. And now I'm in my head instead of focusing on my audience. Then when it came to delivering probably my favorite line in the speech, it comes in the final story where a young girl who was deathly afraid of public speaking, she gets on stage and yes.
Yeah.
So I'll let people actually see the speech. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but she gets on stage. She's afraid of public speaking, but then there were a few words that really resonated with her that she spoke out, and it really touched me. And I remembered her giving that in person, saying those words in person, and I just said, wow, that's amazing. I need to use this in a future story or future speech. I believe it was the most powerful story in my story arsenal. And when I delivered it, because I was in my head, because I was thinking about the judges and not focusing on the message and focusing on the audience, I did not deliver that line with the same emotion and the same feeling that I did in my practice sessions.
Right.
And I don't know whether it would have swayed the judging either which way. I really don't care if it did. It was just a personal matter where I said, man, I really could have given that line so much better. So when I walked off stage, there was a lot of regret that I didn't give it my 100% best because I was too focused on what was going on in my head instead of focusing on the audience. So that is my regret, but it is a regret as a speaker. It had nothing to do with the contest.
Do you have any actionable advice for someone in that situation? Or putting it another way, if you were going back to talk to yourself right before you go on stage and in some way, shape, or form, you could give yourself a piece of advice that would have helped you stay in the game longer and more focused, what would that be?
Good question. So one thing that I would tell people to do, especially if you're feeling anxiety before going on stage, I always have a mantra that's going in my head once I step on stage, and that is nail the opening.
Nice.
So going back in 2016, I would have told myself, just nail the opening and then everything will fall in place. And then the other thing is just have fun with it. Have the same fun and passion that you have when you are crafting the speech, when you are practicing the speech. Because it's something about having fun and enjoying something that makes it feel a little bit more authentic. It feels a little bit more genuine. And then your emotions naturally come out. So I would just tell myself to relax. It's not that serious.
Right.
Just give the message that you intended to give. Have fun with it. Enjoy it.
That point is interesting because it kind of goes back to the old Chinese saying, I don't know if you've ever heard this before or not, wei wu wei, action through inaction. So essentially, the more relaxed you are, the less you try to do something, the more effective you'll be at doing it. In other words, you've practiced, you've done your reps, you've prepared for this speech, you've built all of this up, you've been, in the quote-unquote gym, working through watching yourself on video, listening to yourself on audio, making sure that your delivery is perfect. You've done all of these steps. Now it's just time to go out there and do it, right? And if you're all tense, you're going to be too tense to be as effective as you can be.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're sort of relaxed and kind of you just trust the process, to borrow a Sixers term, we are kind of guys, so if you just kind of trust that you've put the time and the reps in and that you've put all this effort into it and now it's just time to go out there and execute and just kind of let it happen, in other words, very similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll be at your best.
Yeah.
But the second that you try to, you clench up or you try to, really like buckle down, you tend to become more brittle because you're too hard.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny because there is another former champion. I heard him talk afterwards, and he said, I won the world championship after I stopped trying to win the world championship.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And it was just a matter of going out, having fun, and giving the message that you intended to give. Right. Because as a speaker, that is what you should aim to do. Your goal as a speaker is to get the audience to do something or to think something or to know something that they did not know before, or to take a certain action that is going to improve their life in the future. You have a lot of power to give them something of value. Focus on giving them that value. Right. That is the number one most important thing. It doesn't matter if you get a first place trophy, second place trophy, or third place trophy.
Right, because if you went out there and you gave it your best, and by the way, I mean, I think that, I'll say this, I think you're a phenomenal public speaker. We haven't known each other that long, but from the few experiences that we've had and what I've seen, that your online presence, your personal brand, the way you carry yourself, the way you prepare for things, you're phenomenal.
Thank you.
But we also, people like us who are overly ambitious, and this is an entrepreneurial trait in general, right? That's kind of what makes you an entrepreneur in a way. You tend to beat yourself up.
Yeah.
And you're your biggest critic, and you're always, you focus on the failures and the bad beats and not on the small victories, right? And to your point, if you had felt that you had delivered a rock star performance and not even placed first, second, or third, you would probably feel a little bit better about that, right?
Yeah, so had I given the message the way that I intended to give it, there is something that I tell people. When you give your speech and you're competing in a contest, and it doesn't matter what contest, you can probably apply this to any situation that you're in, but I say that I want to get to a point where I say that there was nothing more that I could have done at that time for that speech.
Right.
So we try to beat ourselves up because we think there's always something that we did wrong. It's not a matter of there's always something that you did wrong. It's just that sometimes it just didn't swing your way. Like I said, sometimes luck is a part of it.
Right.
But if you get to a point where you said there's nothing else that I could have done better at this time for this speech, because that was all that I had in terms of knowledge at that time, and I delivered it exactly the way that I wanted to deliver it, then you won. That you did everything that you intended to do. And now improvement only comes from learning what you didn't know before.
Right. Yeah, anytime you have a personal failure or that you didn't get the mark that you were trying to get to, as long as you're learning from it, that's really the biggest key to improvement.
Yeah. Just to add, because you mentioned failures specifically, I've now gotten to a point where I embrace failures because I feel that as a speaker, as a storyteller, that gives me such great ammunition. Right. I get a great story out of that. Yep. For instance, I applied for a TEDx talk a while back, and I didn't get it. I got rejected. So I put that out in a little story on Facebook, and people absolutely loved it. Like, oh, wow, you're so brave to tell us about that. No, I'm not brave. There are people who are a lot braver than me. Trust me. Posting a failure on Facebook isn't really brave, but it helped me realize that people will rally behind you because of your failures. You actually are stronger because of failures. People will respect you more if you fail and keep going than if you succeed but never told anybody about any of your setbacks.
Right, exactly. Right, yeah. And fortunately for us, I think that that's one of the positive things that are coming out of the way that society is shifting in the context of social media becoming more prevalent, and I think that the positive speakers out there on social media, like I'm a big fan of Gary Vee.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and the message that he delivers is that you should be focusing on the journey, focus on the experience, stop worrying about this like Instagram fame and fakeness, and really embracing sort of to your point, what might be considered a failure, but then can be turned into a valuable asset for you from a storytelling perspective or just from an experience perspective. I mean, those are so valuable long term that they can really help you grow.
Yeah. And sorry not to interrupt. Something else that I wanted to just talk about is that because of those failures, once you finally do succeed, that makes your story even more powerful because you've had that success, because people followed you when you had those lulls, when you were at your lowest point, and then they see you at the highest point. That makes you even stronger than a person who just succeeded out of the gate.
Right. Exactly.
I feel that me as a second place winner, one of my biggest goals is to get back to the world stage. And not to win, but just to go on the world stage and know 100% I left it all on the table. I did everything that I could have done, and there was nothing else that I could have done better. And that is my goal, to give that speech and leave nothing on the table, give my absolute best. And I'm kind of on my way there. So recently I found out that I'm competing in the contest this year as well, 2019, okay. And I found out that I am one of the 14 semifinalists.
Wow, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
Awesome. So when are the semifinals?
So the semifinals will be held at the Toastmasters convention, which will be in Denver, Colorado, and it will be on August 21st.
Of 2019.
Of 2019.
Yeah, great. Wow, that's amazing. Well, we're rooting for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hoping to see that you can make it to the next level and hopefully get to the finals again. It'd be really interesting. So do you prepare first and foremost a different speech every time?
You have options. You can do as many speeches as you want in all of the different rounds. But the thing is, once you get to the finals, it has to be an entirely new speech that you've never given before in that contest season. Okay.
And I guess to some degree, obviously, there's the kind of honor system there,
yeah.
But that's part of it as well.
Yep, exactly. But really, I feel that I have so many stories, and I have a story file. So I have an idea, or I think about a story or a time in my life, I jot it down.
That's great.
And it's just material that I can flesh out later. But you want to have a story file because I can never run out of content. I always have something that I can use.
Are you just using your notepad for that, or Evernote, or do you have a particular method that you use that you like?
So the honest answer is it depends on what's available at the time. If I have a pad, I'll write it down on a pad.
Okay.
But what I try to do I'm trying to be more religious in doing, I have an application that I use on my phone, and I use that to take down the notes. So if I have an idea, I take out my phone and I jot it down. But sometimes I don't have my phone because it's dead, or I placed it in another room and I'm going to lose the idea if I just wait any longer. I have to write it down on something. I'll just write it down on something and hold on to it so that I can put it on that digital device later.
Right.